Hello, good morning, good afternoon and good evening to you, the good and wonderful people of the tube. Hope you're well today, hope you're feeling grand and all is well in your world. Hi! And welcome to another episode of How to Play Like John Frusciante! In this, well, that was weird. Anyway, in this episode, I want to teach you a song in its entirety, and the song I've chose is Dani California. I feel it's a really good kind of starting point. It's got simple bits, complex bits, and downright mental bits. You know, like the ending. But I feel it's a great kind of place to start. You know, getting into that kind of John feel. It's just got kind of everything, you know, John related in there. It's got, like, you know, nice chord use, nice little twiddly, you know, diddly dums, Ned Flanders bits. You know, big rocking distortion kind of choruses and an amazing guitar solo, really melodic guitar solo and crazy wah-wah stuff. So it's got everything really, you know, you kind of want to know about John's playing. So I really kind of thought it was a good place to kind of start. And after this lesson, I am going to go heavily into theory, and I'm going to do about 2 or 3 lessons on, you know, unlocking the neck John style, and then I'm going to teach another song which will be Scar Tissue, just so you can kind of like start putting some of the things I've spoke about into kind of practical use, let's say, because you're not going to learn to play like John if you just kind of approach it from a theoretical standpoint. You know, you need to know the theory, but once you know it, you need to put it into practical usage. Otherwise, it just, you know, it doesn't work. So, more of that next week, or hopefully the week after, or, you know, hopefully when I get around to it. Today, Dani California. Song is entirely on the bass pickup, neck pickup of the Strat. Apart from one bit where he does this crazy thing with the select switch, which I'll talk about in a minute. We only did it on the recording, though, never live. What else to say? Pedals used, DS2 for distortion, Ibanez Wah for the crazy bit at the end. Weird face. And that bit where he goes, that bit, that's a Mooga Fuga Murph pedal that he used there to get that kind of underwatery, wobbly sound. And what he did was he recorded it clean, so it's like that. And then after it was recorded, they ran the tape through, well, not physically, but they ran that sound through the pedal, and it altered the sound of it. And he ran it through like 3 or 4 times or something. There's a great interview with John talking about all the treatment he did on the track. You know, I'm sure quite a few of you have seen it. So yeah, that's it really. It's pretty straightforward. There's no other pedals used really. It's just DS2, Ibanez Wah, and that Mooga Fuga Murph pedal. I guarantee it's his 62 Strat, Silver Jubilee, Marshall Major. Yeah, that's about it really. So, without further ado, let's get into teaching the first section of the song, the verse. So, let's get going. Okay, so, chords for Dani California are A minor, G major, D minor, and A minor again. That's the verse chords. So A minor is played 2 different ways. You see John play it every now and again like this, but mainly he plays it with his thumb over the top. So thumb is on the 5th fret on the low E, ring finger is on the 7th fret A, little finger 7th fret D, and your first finger bars for G, B and high E strings on the 5th fret. So actually A minor. So your middle finger isn't used at all here, so that's just kind of like, you know, like that. So that's your A minor. The next chord is G major, so you're basically kind of moving up to your 3rd fret now. Your thumb goes on the 3rd fret low E, ring finger is now on the 5th fret on the A, little finger 5th fret D. Your middle finger comes in now on the 4th fret on the G, and then your first finger bars the B and the high E strings on the 3rd fret. And then you go to D minor, and you don't play the high, either of the E strings here, so no low and no high E. So your first finger is on the 5th fret on the A. Your ring finger then goes on the 7th fret, I can't count, 7th fret on the D, little finger 7th fret G, and your middle finger goes on the 6th fret on the B. And thumb still over the top, and I use it to kill the low E string so you don't get this, which is not nice. So that's the D. and then back to your A. And that's it, that's the chords. And the rhythm is, what you do is you play the top string of your note, the root note of your chord, twice before you hit the actual whole chord. So it's low E string twice, and then the whole chord, and then a low E string again, twice, the whole chord, and then your A string twice, and the whole chord, and then back to your low E string again twice, whole chord. And it's kind of, the rhythm is this. You can hear that emphasis on the last kind of, you know, the last kind of strum of the guitar, and that's really important. Because that kind of where you hit the full chord has to be locked in with the snare drum on the track. So that's kind of, if you want to kind of listen really closely, that is right on Chad's snare drum. So that's kind of like, you know, important to note. That emphasis is really there, and they're all together on that one. So that's got to be really tight. So low E string, and then the snare hit basically. So that's that. Pretty straightforward. That's the main bulk of the verse throughout the entire song. So let's now talk about the fiddly twiddly Ned Flanders part. Okay, so next part of Dani California is the diddly dum bits. The twiddly bits, if you will. The first time around, it does this section longer than it does the last couple of times, if that makes any sense. It's kind of doubled, I'd say. But let me show you it first, before we talk about when it's used and whatever. So the first one is basically an A minor again, but we're getting rid of the A, B and high E strings. So we've got our thumb over the top on the A string on the low E. On the A note, sorry, on the low E. The A string on the low E string. Interesting stuff, Dave. Where did you learn? Anyway, moving along. So first note is our thumb is on the top, low E string, 5th fret. And then our ring finger is on the octave note, which is an A note again, on the D string, 7th fret. And the A string is not played. I'm killing it with my thumb. It's best to kill it with your thumb because you need this finger to be kind of away from it, if that makes any sense. So that's the first kind of chord we're doing. And then our first finger is on the G string on the 5th fret. But we're not playing that straight off the bat, and you know, you're just basically playing these two notes. And that's the rhythm. And then you put a twiddle in, a diddly dum. So your diddly dum happens between the 5th, 7th fret and the G. So you hammer on from your 5th on your G string to your 7th, pull off, and then you finish up on the 7th fret on your D. And it's important to note, once you hit that diddly dum, don't play your bass note. Let it go away, because you don't, you know, John doesn't do it, and it does sound cluttered when you do it. It doesn't sound very nice. It sounds a lot cleaner and clearer when you don't play your bass note. So play the bass note on the that, and then once you get to that, get that bass note out of there totally. Just go away, bass note. We don't want you anymore. So really slow. One more time. So that's the A. The G, again, no A, B or high E strings. And what we're doing, thumb over top on the 3rd fret. And then your ring finger goes onto the 5th fret D. A string's dead. And it, same kind of thing, you know, you play that first, and then your diddly dum happens between your 4th and your 5th on your G string. So I use my middle finger and my ring finger to do the diddly dum, but if you find it more easy to use your 1st and your 2nd, or your little finger and that, or that, yeah, use whatever's comfortable for you to get it clean and clear and nice. So thumb over the top, low E, A string dead, 5th fret D, and your diddly dum happens between 4th, 5th, G. So hammer on from the 4th on the G string to the 5th on the G string, pull off, and end up on the 5th fret on the D. So, and it's a different rhythm. The G to a diddly-dum is different rhythm to the A diddly-dum, if that makes any sense. The rhythm for the A is, and then the rhythm for the G is, da-da. So, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Then the fiddly one, the D minor next, and this is really fiddly. You need all 5 fingers, well, 5 fingers, 4 fingers and a thumb for this bit. So what you do for the D is you slide from the 3rd fret on your A to the 5th fret on your A. So C note to a D note, and then your middle finger, wants to be on the 6th fret on the B. Your ring finger wants to be on the 7th fret on the G, and you do your diddly-dum with your little finger. Now this is very difficult, and don't worry if you don't get it straight away, work at it, but John doesn't get it all the time live. He does, you know, he had in the studio, you don't know how many times he did it till he got it, but it is difficult to kind of do this one, and especially because this is the only diddly-dum in the whole song where you kind of keep the bass note on, if that makes any sense. On the A and the G, once you get that, you get rid of your bass note. On the D, you leave it in. So, slide there. That's the diddly. So you're reaching right over, and I don't put the 7th fret G note on till I have to. It just makes it easier to get your little finger over there, because it's fairly, you know, it's a fairly decent stretch. My thumb's still over the top though. John's is still over the top at this point as well. So the diddly-dum happens 6th fret on your B, and then you hammer on to the 8th fret on your B with your little finger, and then you finish up with your ring finger on the 7th fret on the G, and you keep your bass note on. And whereas with these, the A and the G, you can kind of get away with doing the John strum thing, where you're killing all the other strings. On the D, it's better to pick out the notes. It does sound cleaner. If you kind of do it any other way, it sounds messy. If you kind of strum it, it does sound really messy. So, you know, it just sounds cleaner if you pick it. And that was a terrible attempt. I don't even get it sometimes. It is very difficult. So that's your next one. So that's the whole thing together so far. Really slow is this. Didn't mean to go to that bit yet. So the whole thing so far, take 2 is like this. One more time, really slow. Okay, so that's up to that point, and the first time you hear this, like I said earlier on, it is doubled. So it goes round one extra time than it normally does, if that makes any sense, because it's like a double verse at the beginning of Dani California. And what you're doing at the end of this first one is this. So, and then you go back to this, the A, but what you're doing here is you're not playing the A and the D strings now. You're playing now the G, B and high E, and you basically thumb over top on the low E, on the A note, and then you bar in these bottom 3 strings, and you do this twiddle the first time around. And it's strange, because you kind of like rake upwards to get the diddle. So, ignore that note, I didn't even play it. So that's the first twiddle, and what it is, yeah, I'll say you're barring the G, B and high E on the 5th fret, and you're hammering on to the 6th fret on your B, and then pull off, and you finish up on your G string 5th fret, and the high E string's in there. It just adds an extra thing. It's very strange. Actually, yeah, add in the octave note, it sounds fuller. So do add that. So it's basically just A string is the only string not being played. Get rid of it, that octave and the bass note when you do the twiddle. It just sounds clean. So that's the first time around. So again, really slow now with it all in. I hope this is making sense. First time around's that. Second time around you do this. Which is very kind of strange. It's like a diddly dum, but not quite. It's like a diddly. It's a Ned Flanders bit. So what you do is kind of, you're raking up, but you're just pulling off, but you're not resolving it to that note. So it's hammer on, and just pull off. So the whole first time you hear all these the diddly dum bits in Dani California is this, really slow. So that's the first time it does that. The second time you hear it, it doesn't stay so long. It doesn't kind of go to the D the second time around. It does this. And it goes to the build to the chorus, which is just your D minor shape. And it's kind of important to kind of like, you know, ease off your dynamic here and build it up as it gets into the chorus. So you kind of hear it building up, and that's what I hope that made sense. So the first time the diddly dums come along, it's this. From that point on, it does this. So it only ever does that kind of extended one once, and that's right at the beginning. From that point on, it's just that section. And I say that build up into the chorus is so important to kind of like hit it hard first, and then ease off, and then really lay into it before you're kicking your DS2 and go into your chorus. So let's talk chorus.